Shinichi cannot catch a break. Nothing is working out for this kid. It's going in the tradition of old school horror stories where things just keep getting worse. And it's already bad enough that his right hand was already taken over by a talking parasitic creature named Migi, but now he can't even walk outside of his house anymore in the fear that one of these nasty, face-splitting, tentacle-filled creatures is just gonna end up mawing his face off. And to make matters worse, he can't even go to school anymore. Dude can't even get a proper education because his brand new teacher just happens to be a highly intelligent, parasitic human hybrid who has plans for impregnation. This was another awesome episode of Parasyte the Maxim, filled with all of that typical nasty, gangly gore, and lots of humor as well. Not to mention, it was filled to the brim with tension. Whenever you put a setting in a school, it's going to immediately make it seem all the more dangerous, because you fear for the lives of the students. And that's what they did in this week's episode. So, we got this new character, it's the new teach in town, her name is Tamiya Ryuko, and she's kind of a badass. She doesn't take any shit from anybody, especially molesters on a train. And she happens to be different from the other creatures that we've seen so far, in that she's really intelligent, and she's very interested in what the deal is with Shinichi and Migi. She wants to study them, so to speak, and she doesn't really seem to be their enemy outright, so much as she just wants to sort of observe them and see what they're doing. She also confirms that when two parasites actually mate with each other, they actually don't create anything. But if they are two human parasites, a human baby will be born. So Tamiya is actually pregnant, and I have no idea where they're going with this, but I was getting some species vibes from this, and it was weird. I really liked it because it just made the episode seem all the more disturbing, and it just added this layer of creepiness to it, which, again, just makes this a show that's perfect for the Halloween season. Check it out if you want to feel some goosebumps. So we know that Tamiya is a lady in the streets and a freak in the sheets, so she was hitting it with this one parasite by the name of A, or A-san. He doesn't really have a name, and he's basically your typical parasite human hybrid. He's very zombie-like, he's very simple, and he's all about just killing and eating people. Simple as that. He's very full of himself as well. He feels that his abilities are so powerful that he can pretty much just kill people in broad daylight, and there's no problems for that at all. And he does not like Shinichi and Migi at all. In fact, the very next day after meeting them, he goes to their school and starts slaughtering everybody left and right. And that's where a lot of the tension comes into play, because now Shinichi and Migi are about to be dragged into this battle with this guy, and they also have to figure out how to get all of these students out of the way. And originally, Migi's plan was to actually use all of the people there as a distraction, so that when Mr. A finds them, he's just going to start slicing them all up, or as Migi said, scything through them, which would give him an opportunity to try and kill him. However, the more human side of Shinichi decides that this is not the plan, and then he decides to run away and create these barricades with desks, and he's actually going to fight back with Migi against this. And at the very end of the episode, after Mr. A has gone through the building and slaughtered a few of the faculty, he decides to run up and have his face explode open as he's about to battle against Shinichi and Migi, and damn, it was awesome. And not that much happened either, but that's what I loved about it. It's just, I got lost in the time, you know, I just got sucked into the story this week, and by the time it ended, I'm like, oh man, I cannot wait to see next week's episode. So what's the rundown? On this week's episode of Parasyte the Maxim, it was freaking awesome. I loved everything about it. I loved the introduction of the character of Tamiya Ryuko. I just can't wait to learn a little bit more about her. Before I start to talk about her, though, I loved how they built her up, how in the last week's episode they teased her, and how they showed her having that train scene, and when they were showing, like, all of the students in the room waiting for the new teacher to be introduced, just the paranoia of, like, wondering who it could be was so disturbing. I mean, it was obvious it was probably going to be that woman, especially when she walked up on the stage, and I really liked how Migi's like, don't make eye contact at all. As soon as they do, it goes into total super creepy mode, and it's really effective. But the actual character of Tamiya is interesting, because I'm not sure what her, like, big plan is quite yet. She's very similar to Migi in a sense that she doesn't really fully understand what she is or what her ultimate goal is, but she's interested in learning about that and the various different types of parasites. because obviously there's going to be some parasites who have taken over human bodies in the brain, there's going to be some that have taken over specific body parts, there's some that are more intelligent than others, and that's adding a whole new layer to this series, which I think is really interesting. And, you know, obviously she was teased in the intro of the show, and it looks like there might even be another female character, unless this is like some sort of weird mirror of her, but I can't quite tell where that's going. But the whole concept of her being pregnant is just very disturbing. I'm not sure what it was about that scene, but it was very nuts, just how nonchalant she was about it, how she just didn't care. She's very similar to Migi in a sense, in how she's very robotic in how she does things. In the scene where she bites the spoon, like, she barely just, like, puts it in her mouth, and when she pulls it out, it's completely bent up, and the way her eye just slowly rolls back, very disturbing stuff right there. Aeson is basically your typical weird parasitic human hybrid creature. You know, his face explodes open, it's got like the weird tentacle with the blade at the end, very Las Plagas-like from Resident Evil 4, and he takes out a few of the faculty and the teachers, and, you know, this is an episode that could have probably gone into some really dark territory. I think when you put something like this, the setting of it in a school, it just makes it seem all the more dangerous and dark. And it totally gave me vibes of the early episodes of Mirai Neki, which, if you've seen that series, you know things didn't work out too well for a lot of the students in that school. So I'm surprised it actually didn't go in that direction. Otherwise, this was a really good episode. I'm still enjoying the whole paranoia aspect of the series, of wondering who is a human, who is not. Can't wait to see, like, what's actually going to happen, though, when Shinichi goes into battle with Migi, because one of the things about this episode is that Migi's no longer going to fight by himself, and he actually, like, does this thing where he extends his hand out and he cuts away this, like, part of a desk, which turns into this sharp metal spike, and he gives that to Shinichi, and he says he's going to join him in battle. And if the intro is apparent, he's going to eventually start learning how to, like, work with him effectively so that they can fight against these creatures. And I'm really interested to see what's going to happen here. Obviously, Tamiya has no, like, huge connection to Aeson, aside from the fact that they had sex. But it was strictly for the sake of science, so to speak. She has no, like, real connection to him whatsoever. And that's, again, just what makes her such a creepy and very hard to read character. And that scene where she was talking about that and the waitress overheard it, that was really funny as well. They were just being very blunt about it, but that's the way those parasitic creatures are in the first place. So, this was another really great episode, great animation, great artwork. There was a little bit of humor sprinkled in, there was a little bit of action, a little bit of nastiness, and an incredible amount of tension. I can't wait to see next week's episode because it's going to be the perfect episode for Halloween week. I'm sure it's going to be nice and creepy and nasty, and I hope they go crazy with the animation. But then again, this is a series where the animation always does look really cool, even with the littlest of moments. Just the way Migi talks, or just the way his actual hand transforms into the blades. Just little things like that. The way people's faces split open. It's beautifully grotesque. So, I like this episode. It wasn't perfect. It was a little slow in parts, but I think it was a really great build-up episode that introduced a really awesome character, Tamiya. So I'm going to give this week's episode a 4 out of 5. Check it out, guys. Another really fantastic episode of Parasyte the Maxim. Thank you guys for watching my review. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and like the video. Before you guys go, please tell me what you thought about this week's episode of Parasyte the Maxim. What did you think of the character of Tamiya? And how do you think Shinichi and Migi are going to fare in their battle against Mr. Aeson? Before you guys leave, please subscribe to our channel if you have not already. That way you can see all of our latest anime and manga reviews as they are released. You can do that by clicking on the channel icon right up here. You guys can also follow us on Facebook and on Twitter.